Good morning, Kairos of Oak Ridge.
Good morning.
Morning.
Happy birthday.
Thank you. Well, this morning we're going to continue our series. This is lesson 14. Can you believe that? 14. The battles in the Old Testament. And this is concerning David at Ziklag. Now, I got to set up the prologue to this before he gets into this battle. Goes all the way back to the lesson that Andrea taught last week about David and Goliath and what happened after that. Now, King Saul took David under his wing, but then he became jealous. You know, the people were praising David. You know, Saul's killed his thousands and David's killed his 10,000. David hadn't killed one person.
Well, he got
He might have been as big as 10,000 people, but it was just one person. And so, in his jealousy, he begins to try to kill David. He's in the palace and he throws a spear at him. David runs off, and Saul's son Jonathan tries to make amends and try to resolve this schism that's happened because he's already taken a blood oath with David. You know, he loved David like a brother, and they exchanged weapons and they cut themselves and did the blood oath thing. So there was a strong attachment between those two, and Jonathan's stuck in the middle of this conflict. Well, David goes out in the countryside and he runs into basically a band of outlaws, rogues, you know, out there roaming. They follow behind him. You know, he's already been anointed to be king, but the time is not now. It's not come to that point yet. So Saul keeps going after him, and they're out there running around, hiding in caves, and Saul catches up with him and trying to kill him and sets up camp. In the middle of the night, David and one of his men go down into the camp, and they could have killed Saul right where he lay to sleep. Instead, he reaches down with a knife and cuts a piece of his robe off and goes back to their cave. And the next morning, he sees King Saul and said, "Hey, look, you see this? Look at your robe. I cut this off you last night. I could have killed you, but I'm not going to kill God's anointed. Let's have peace." And Saul says, "Yes, go in peace, son." So he runs off and attacks the Amalekites at the city of Ziklag and takes it over. And now it's his town. But in the process of this, of all things, he goes and hooks up with the Philistines and becomes a friend of King Achish. And the king, and then he get along great, and he's out attacking the enemies of the Philistines and whipping them. He's got 600 men. Well, the Philistines group up, Achish groups up with the rest of the Philistines, and they're getting ready to go fight the Hebrews, the Jews, and the main leaders, and say, like, look, we can't bring David with us. You know, he's got 600 men, he's Jewish, we'll get in the middle of this fight and he'll turn on us. So they tell Achish, go tell him to go back, not to come with us. And that's what King Achish does. And he leaves and goes back home, and when he gets there, Ziklag is in ashes. So that's where we're going to pick up the story now. And this is in 1 Samuel chapter 30, starting in verse 1. And it's a lesson in when everything is lost, seek the Lord first, because he can restore and he can recover. This battle is really not like many others. There's no real city walls to be climbed over, no more giants to fight, no massive armies, and yet for David, this is probably one of the hardest battles he had to fight. Because when he got back home, he found the city burned to the ground and everything's gone. Their wives, their children, everything they possessed. They don't know if all their stuff was burned up. They don't know if their wives and children have been murdered. They have no idea. And in the face of this, they fall in grief. There's despair. There's betrayal. The city's burned, his family's gone, and now the men are talking about stoning him to death. They're talking about turning on him. So what happens here reveals to us why David was called a man after God's own heart. So in 1 Samuel 30, verse 1, now it happened when David and his men came to Ziklag on the third day that the Amalekites had invaded the south at Ziklag, attacked Ziklag and burned it with fire, and had taken captive the women and those who were there, from small to great. They did not kill anyone, but carried them away and went their way. So David and his men came to the city, and there it was burned with fire, and their wives, their sons, and their daughters had been taken captive. Then David and the people who were with him lifted up their voices and wept until they had no more power to weep. They were extremely grieved. And David's two wives, Ahinoam, the Jezreelitess, and Abigail, the widow of Nabal. Remember Abigail?
Yep.
The wise woman, had been taken captive. Now David was greatly distressed, for the people spoke of stoning him, because the soul of all the people was grieved, every man for his sons and daughters. They're all extremely upset. So they've been out, they've been roaming the country, they've been fighting with the Philistines, they come home, Ziklag's burned, all their wives and family are gone. They weep until there's no strength left. David's own wives are gone, and now they're talking about stoning him. They're blaming the leader when pain has overwhelmed them. See, we learn in life that God's servants are not immune to devastating loss. Just because you're the leader, it doesn't spare you from heartbreak. Have you ever had a moment in your life where you turn and there's nothing but ashes? A moment when everything you trusted seemed gone. But in 1 Samuel verse 30, the first part of verse 6, it says, but David strengthened himself in the Lord his God. This is the turning point in this chapter. David doesn't blame God. He doesn't panic. He doesn't retaliate. He doesn't collapse. He deliberately turns inward. God's presence and God's promises. He turns to God. See, when human support is gone, God's remains sufficient. I think there's something about He's enough, always enough, more than enough, always enough. He's enough, right? He's sufficient. So what do you do when you're in the middle of a crisis to strengthen yourself in the Lord? Pray, cry out, ask, Lord, what am I supposed to do? What am I supposed to do with this, Lord? And that's what David does. We're going to continue reading in verse 7. And David said to Abiathar the priest, Ahimelech's son, please bring the ephod here to me. And Abiathar brought the ephod to David. So David inquired of the Lord, saying, shall I pursue this troop? Shall I overtake them? And he answered him, pursue, for you shall surely overtake them, and without fail recover all. How much is all? Everything. Everything. I mean, how much better a message can you get concerning something like this? After you wept and gone through all this despair, and God says, go after them, you're going to get everything back. Wow. And he used the ephod, right? That's like the casting of lots.
How did he even have that with him, though? It's interesting.
The priest had it.
Why was there a priest with him? That's interesting. I'm not expecting you to answer. It's just a question in my mind, is that why would
Because Saul
the
had
priest
slain
not be with Saul and the kingdom of
because
Israel?
Saul had slain the priests. When David went into the tabernacle to get the showbread, there was a spy there who went and told Saul, and Saul went and slew all the priests. So those are probably the ones that survived that.
Wow.
Mm.
Cool.
So that's why they're with him, because they knew with him they were safe.
Wow.
So he basically, uses the ephod, Urim and the Thummim, and through that the message comes. Right? Remember, that's how they communicated.
Mm-hmm.
Just like same thing as casting lots. And he specifically, he specifically asked God, what should we do? And God just answers specifically, pursue. You shall surely overtake and shall surely recover it all. See, we may be in faith, and we should be in faith, but we don't want to rush ahead of God, right? We should wait for what he has to say. See, in moments of stress, do you move first or do you pray first?
Wait.
Wait.
It's hard.
Yeah.
It's hard to wait.
Waiting's always hard. So, we're going to continue now in verse 9. So David went, he and the 600 men who were with him, and came to the brook Besor, where those stayed who were left behind. But David pursued, he and 400 men. 200 men stayed behind, who were so weary that they could not cross the brook Besor. These men were just worn out. They just couldn't take another step. But David goes on. He leaves the 200 behind, and he takes the 400. And David allows them to stay. He doesn't shame them or berate them or condemn them. If you've reached that point, you're more of you're so worn out, you're more of a negative thing than a positive thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because now only they have to fight the enemy, they have to fight to keep them from getting harmed because they can't fight. So he made a wise decision and said, okay. Because he knows no matter how many he takes, what has God told him?
He's going to be victorious.
He's going to get it all back.
Wow.
So it's okay. See, God it values compassion. And not everyone can fight the battle. Sometimes you just can't do it. So how do you treat people when they come to a point when they're in a season it's hard for them and they can't fight?
Oh, that's hard.
Yeah. They can't do it. So we're going to continue in verse 11 now. Then they found an Egyptian in the field and brought him to David. And they gave him bread and he ate, and they let him drink water. And they gave him a piece of cake of figs and 2 clusters of raisins. So when he had eaten, his strength came back to him. For he had eaten no bread or drunk water for 3 days and 3 nights. How about that? Somebody just happened to be out there. They got left behind. Who knows everything David needs to know.
That's awesome.
It just happens they stumble across him.
That's the beauty of God.
Yes.
Things just happen to happen.
Yes.
Can you say set up? Can you say divine appointment?
Mm-hmm.
Then David said to him, to whom do you belong and where are you from? And he said, I'm a young man from Egypt, servant of an Amalekite. And my master left me behind because 3 days ago I fell sick. He just happened to fall sick and he couldn't keep up. So his master ditches him. Just throws him to the side. He's just garbage. Right? Oops. We made an invasion in the southern area of the Cherethites, in the territory which belongs to Judah, and of the southern area of Caleb, and we burned Ziklag with fire. David said to him, can you take me down to this troop? He didn't pull out a sword and kill him because he was part of this invasion. He could have got mad and just killed him, but he didn't. He said, can you help me with this? So he's found an abandoned Egyptian slave, sick, starving, and forgotten. And instead of ignoring him, just going on by and leaving him lay there, he feeds and restores him. And then the man leads him directly to the Amalekite camp. See, a small, insignificant act of mercy can unlock God's guidance. How about that? See, God can place someone in your path to guide you. Someone you don't know, and all of a sudden it just happens. If you're willing to show some compassion, you don't know, what might happen. So now we're going to get to verse 16. And when he had brought him down, there they were, spread out all over the land, eating and drinking and dancing, because of all the great spoil which they had taken from the land of the Philistines and from the land of Judah. He caught them out there in the open. Probably all their swords and spears and everything are stacked up somewhere. They're not standing there armed to fight. They're unprepared for battle.
They're tired.
Yeah. But now they're dancing, they're probably drinking, they're probably half drunk. Right?
Yep,
They're not
perfect
so
time.
tired if they're dancing and drinking.
Well, that's true. But they're not in a prepared position for a battle. He catches them unawares. Then David attacked them from twilight. He hit them right at twilight at night, as the sun's going down. Until the evening of the next day, he fought them a whole day, all night long and all day long. He and 400 men, and not a man of them escaped, except for 400 young men who rode on camels and fled. Wait a minute, David's got 400, and 400 fled. Talk about God eliminating some of the enemy and getting them out of your way, removing them from the battlefield. Go get. So David recovered all that the Amalekites had carried away, and David rescued his 2 wives, and nothing of theirs was lacking, either small or great, sons or daughters, shalal or anything, spoil or anything, which they had taken from them. David recovered all. Then David took all the flocks and herds they had driven before those other livestock and said, this is David's shalal. So they got back everything. Now, well, I think we'll see it here in a minute. Let's see. Yeah. A lot of this stuff wasn't only just theirs, it was other stuff that had been taken from other places.
Yeah.
Because these folks had gone up into Judah. They had attacked some other cities before they hit Ziklag.
Yeah, it's a good point.
Okay, so he got not only all his stuff, he got a whole bunch more stuff. So he hits them right at sundown when they're getting ready to, prepare to go to bed, and rolls them up. That's just like Stonewall Jackson in Chancellorsville. He hit him from the flank and rolled him up right as the sun was going down. It's a good time to hit somebody. The Amalekites are completely defeated. Nothing is missing. They get everything back just like God said. Just as God promised. They recover all. See, God's promise he made to David was precise. It wasn't partial. You're going to get it all back. So, where do we need to trust God for complete restoration and not just survival? He can not only let us survive, but He can restore all. Continuing in verse 21. Now David came to the 200 men who had been so weary that they could not follow David, whom they also had made to stay at the brook Besor. So they went out to meet David and to meet the people who were with him. And when David came near the people, he greeted them. Then all the wicked and worthless men of those who went with David answered and said, because they did not go with us, we will not give them any of the shalal that we have recovered, except for man's wife and children, that they may lead them away and depart. They wanted to give them back their wife and kids now. You're no longer part of us. That's what some of these men were saying, right? But David said, my brethren, you shall not do so with what the Lord has given us, who has preserved us and delivered into our hand the troop that came against us. For who will heed you in this matter? But as his part is who goes down to the battle, so shall his part be who stays by the supplies. They shall share alike. See what kind of leader David was? Look, they're getting back their stuff too. They couldn't make it, but they stayed behind. They guarded what we had back here to keep anybody from taking that. So they did their part as much as they could. They still get everything back just like we did. In verse 25, so it was from that day forward, he made it a statute and an ordinance for Israel to this day. That's how it was going to be. Everybody gets to partake of. So they came to the 200. The wicked group said, give them nothing. David says, nope, they get equally what everybody gets. Fighters and stayers alike. And establish it as an ordinance. See, when God's victory takes place, everything's shared, not hoarded. So let's go to verse.
Well, I want to add one
26.
thing.
Go ahead.
God loves a cheerful giver. And the word besor at that location means, in the Hebrew language, cheerful.
Nice. Cool.
It's interesting.
All right, we're going to talk about it some more. Verse 26. Now David came to the 200 men who had been so weary that they could not follow David, whom they also made to stay at the brook Besor. So they went out to meet David and to meet the people who were with him. And when David came near the people, he greeted them. Did I already read this? No.
Just read it again.
No, it's not. I mean, it's not twice. It's just saying it again. So they went out to meet David and to meet the people who were with him. And when David came near the people, he greeted them. Then all the wicked and the worthless men of those who were with David answered and said, because they did not go with us, we will not give them any of the spoil that we have